It gives me Jose Baez vibes.
I wonder, is this the loophole that the defense has found to get some reasonable doubt out there? Start making holes in people's stories. So Christina Randall had brought up the Jose Baez technique. And I thought maybe we'd play you that clip, you folks, and you can see she covers a lot of true crime. And at this point, you can consider her an expert at covering these cases. Christina Randall, here we go.
I mean, I don't know. It seems like a bunch of coinky dinks here. And your alibi is that you like to take long rides in the middle of the night with your cell phone turned off, I guess.
In the right place.
And your DNA is found. Anyways, during the hearing, the defense and the prosecution went back and forth quite a bit, kind of in a professional way, accused each other of lying is the way that I understood it. Like, the defense was like, oh, the prosecution knew that we were going to have this witness testifying. And the prosecution's like, no, we just found this out this morning. Or, so they were going back and forth. What I will say, though, is that if prosecution, Mr. Bill Thompson, who I think is adorable, but if he's going to go to trial against Ann Taylor, he sure enough better be drinking his protein and doing his pull-ups, because Ann Taylor, she's a force to be reckoned with, okay? And Mr. Prosecutor, Mr. Bill Thompson, he's going to have to step it up a bit, is what it seems like. He's going to have to get it together, because Ann Taylor, she's like a dragon. She is ready. And her client is ready. I mean, if you look at him in there, he looks like he's one of the attorneys too, and he is not sweating at all, which also makes me think, what the heck? Who could be in his position and be that cool, calm, and collected?
That's what I said.
I don't know. And speaking of that, Brian Koberger's family was allegedly there at court, and I would have to guess, okay, that Ann Taylor spoke to them and said, it looks really bad for Brian not to have any support here. You guys got to come to court. You got to be here. You got to find a way to make it work, because to the public, it looks like he's a person that has no support. That's just my thoughts. I could be wrong. But some of the victims' families were there, and y'all already know Kaylee's family was there. They're not playing, and I don't blame them. I'd be sitting right next to them the whole time, too. The fact that DNA on the knife sheath matches Brian Koberger's DNA. When they swabbed him, it was basically a perfect match. But I get what Ann Taylor and them are trying to do. They're trying to find any tiny little loophole, because that DNA is the biggest part of this case. And that makes me uncomfortable, y'all. And this is just me talking to y'all like if we was sitting on my back porch, okay? It gives me Jose Baez vibes. Y'all remember that watched the Casey Anthony trial. He pulled out every stunt in the book. You never knew the next person that was coming to testify, what was going to come out of his mouth. When Jose Baez got up there to do his opening statements,
you're going to hear all kinds of bizarre family behavior that just doesn't make sense.
To defend Casey Anthony, he spewed out all kinds of stuff that he never even talked about in the trial. Never did. He said any old thing. It was a circus. It was a full-on circus. And by the end of Casey Anthony's trial, the doggone juries were so confused. They were like, we don't know what to think. We cannot find her guilty, because they had so much confusing information. And I almost feel like we're already headed down that path with these antics that it seems like the defense is pulling. And I get it. Brian Koberger deserves a fair trial. Also, Brian Koberger, you guys remember how he had like a certain amount of time to come up with his alibi, and they were kind of dangling this alibi over the prosecution's head, like, we'll give you the alibi if you'll tell us this, Well, guess who his alibi was for the night of the crime, which, mind you guys, Brian Koberger's phone pinged over there by the house 12 times like he had been stalking them, including right before the crime and after the crime, and his phone just happened to turn off or go onto airplane mode for 2 hours.
All right, we're going to start there. I think she's got a legitimate point, and I will be honest. I dismissed it at first when I first heard her say this, because this video is quite old. When she said the Jose Baez, she's getting Jose Baez vibes. I'm getting them too. And particularly when I went back and I looked at what Jose Baez did back in Casey Anthony's case, he had his reputation dragged through the mud, and it feels like he's lost the ability to like care. Like he has no shame, but that's my thoughts on the matter.
So I have a little bit different of a perspective, right? He did his job. Simple as that. He did his job. And his job was, when you go through these things, you take all emotion out of it. And he might have even apologized to her parents ahead of time, say, look, I'm going to do what I have to do. What is our goal? Our goal is to get Casey Anthony off. So the means to the goal isn't as important, and you can't take it all as like he was really doing that or he was blah, blah, blah. And that's what you do. Everything you have to do is to introduce doubt. What's doubt? And so going back a little, when Christina says the DNA is the biggest thing, and it's, however many octillion, whatever that number is, the 13 zeros. I actually think the DNA is the easiest piece for them to overcome, because it can be explained away in so many different ways. So if I'm a juror and I learn about touch DNA, then I'm going to say there's an absolute possibility that sheath has his DNA on it because it was transferred from somewhere else. So that puts doubt in my mind, because there's now another theory. It doesn't have to be proven to be true. It just has to be introduced that there's another possible theory to why that DNA is there. And as a juror, if there's another possible theory, I'm not going to send a man in front of the firing squad if that's all there is. My guess is that when trial comes out, there's a lot more DNA evidence. I don't think that's all the DNA evidence they have. And then that's going to really solidify, the prosecution's argument. That's my guess.
Yeah, I like what you're saying about Jose Baez, though. I mean, he is doing his job, and he got her off. And not to say that she got off. She was found not guilty by,
I know,
the jury of her peers. But
That's
we know
true.
in that case, the police, they went for a charge that they didn't necessarily.
She got off on technicalities.
Yeah.
She didn't get off because she was innocent, in my opinion. I'm just telling you that. And same with OJ. So, it just, I don't know. That's my opinion, and it doesn't mean anything. It's completely speculative and whatever else you want to call it. But.
No, I love your opinion, especially because Gia does have a little background in working with the courts and in legal proceedings. So I don't know what I should share about your background or not.
But you can share whatever. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, but Gia has a lot of experience working in the court system. She does. Yeah,
I just have to plug something in. Hold on. As usual. Keep talking.
Okay. So I'll just and Gia, you can come back and correct me if I say anything wrong, but Gia does work with people in mediation that are going through the process. She's really familiar with courts. She also has experience as a paralegal, although she doesn't need that. She does other things that have to do with the court systems. She doesn't use her paralegal for, but she's a great tool for our podcast because she's seen a lot of things. And so you want to add a little bit more on why I keep tossing these legal questions to you?
No, and I'm not an attorney, right? But I have, like other people say, who have background, like Jules of All Trades. She comments on her background, educational background. I have educational background I am a paralegal, and I did go through. I'm a mediator for court cases and for people going through divorce most often. But I do understand, I went through years of law school that allowed me to become a paralegal. So I understand how to look at documents, and I understand how the way that they're phrased. Sometimes it doesn't always make sense when you're reading it, right? But so sometimes I can help to take apart those kind of things. And I just maybe see things from slightly different perspective.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And it's really important. We appreciate your perspective. I think I've probably kept you and everyone else long enough. We really would love to hear your comments below. I know we're connecting different cases, but that's where we're at in this case now. This is going to trial. We're going to be seeing this summer likely, and we need to start talking about the case. We need to start talking about legal strategies. We need to talk about sentencing. We need to talk about what's going to be done in place of the House, the Oculus. We need to learn how those models are done. So there's a lot for us to cover. We're moving from a lot of different speculation to like, okay, what do they have for evidence? And let's break down this case. So.
Right. Oh, and probably you and I would keep talking about it now, but we don't need to keep everyone on, right? Because we find it so interesting. And I think a lot of what we're doing now too is we're sort of going back and we're looking at things and saying like, well, why did they do this? What was this strategy for the defense or the prosecution? And just kind of trying to pick things apart and really look at it, because as everybody knows, we're at a point right now where this is all speculation. Too much is sealed. There's too many I don't knows and too many what ifs. But I think it's all great food for thought. And there's nothing wrong with dissecting it and talking about it. And I think it's going to, for all of us that are on here and listening, when we get to watch the trial, and hopefully it'll be broadcast live and we'll bring it to you. But we're going to have a lot of like aha moments and oh wow, and we had talked about that and now we know. And so I think it's going to create a lot of interesting commentary as the trial goes on, because this trial is going to go on for probably months, I think.
Really? You think? Okay, I was thinking 6 weeks just because I was going off things like the Casey Anthony trial or the Jodi Arias.
Yeah, could maybe, but it could go potentially. It has the potential to go for a long time. How long was the OJ case? That's
God, I can't remember.
I don't remember either. But I mean, it felt like a long time. It might not have been as long as I'm thinking, but these things just have a way of taking on a life of their own. And to the point someone made, I don't know if it was when I was watching with you or earlier, is that this is a murder case. It's a typical murder case. It's become sensationalized, right? But as far as the rules and the procedures for court and all that, it's just a regular murder case. And I think they made that point in the first, I'm sorry. That was a video I was watching earlier today. You broadcast it with the lawyer, I really like him. And he had a nice video at the end of the year, and it was him and his father, who is also an attorney. And so they were sort of spitballing different things about the case and the potential for appeal. And so I think we'll talk about that this weekend.
Absolutely. And I don't even want you to give any more away from it. And I actually saw the same, because I love that channel. I actually seen him and his father before, and I know what points we're going to cover. So we'll keep our mouths.
Jason just said OJ was 9 months. Thank you. I didn't have a memory lapse. I did think that went on and on and on. So
yeah.
But he was a celebrity, so that may be a little bit different, because Brian's not a celebrity, but he's becoming one because of all the speculation. So
without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And can I just respond to one thing Miss Smith just said?
Yeah, I'll pull it back up.
Okay. For sure, we'll see what happens when the discovery deadlines are scheduled and whatnot. Defense can't be ambushed at the last minute, which is Bill's big fear. Absolutely correct. So when you're watching TV and dun, 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 this last minute witness comes, or this piece of evidence gets pulled out of a hat, and boom, the case. No, that doesn't happen. You can't do that. That's against the rules and procedures. You can't have a surprise witness. You can't have anything that you haven't already disclosed to the other side. So there's no such thing as a last minute surprise in a trial. Miss Smith's right. Yeah. Everything that the prosecution has, the defense has to know about well before getting to trial, or it's not admissible.
Just hypothetically, let's say a witness came forward with some relevant information that they didn't know before. Would they have to hold a hearing separately from the court to find out if they could admit it, or how does that work if something comes up after the fact?
So I don't know if it's necessarily a hearing, but with discovery is ongoing all the way up through the trial. It's always ongoing. So if someone came forward, they would have to disclose that to the other side. The other side might try to suppress the witness, and then they might do a motion to the judge to ask, can we push this forward? And then a judge would rule based on what it was. But it can't be, you can't hold a witness in the back pocket and say, ha ha, right? Gotcha. It doesn't work like that. But if you come across new evidence, always, but you do have to disclose it first to the other side. You can't do it like in front of the jury and surprise the other side.
That, yeah, it's just nice to hear these things. So what it does is it solidifies for people who aren't in the legal system to know that the process is fair. That's basically what the layman wants to know.
It's the best legal system that we have, and it's not perfect by any means, but it's what we have, and it's a lot better than some of those other systems in other countries. So
you had a profound quote in one of the last videos you did where you said that, you know, the legal system is one of the best in the world, but it's only as good as the people who are running it, or something along those lines. So when I say, you know, knowing the system is fair, again, we're just saying it's only as fair as the people running it. But just like Gia said, it's the fairest system in this world. We don't really know of a better one.
Right. Trust me, I would rather be on trial in the United States than anywhere else. And like just talking about when you look back at, remember that girl in Italy that was over there and got accused of murder, and that was just a nightmare. I mean, what she had to go through.
Or Amanda Knox, that's what it was.
Yes, yeah. So not to digress, but I'm just saying it's like even in Italy, which you think is, you know, it's not like a third world country or anything like that. It's still you don't want to be there as opposed to here. And, you know, so we'll see what happens.
I just thought of something, you know, I'm not trying to, again, hold things up. I just thought of another point when you said that. My husband does business with some clients that came and stayed at our old house, and we had a country house in New Hampshire. And they came to stay with us, a husband and wife that were from Brazil. And we were sitting and watching Netflix, and it was kind of like a murder mystery show. And I remember turning to them and I said, well, they should go ask the neighbor if they heard anything. And then, you know, my husband says, oh, well, they should have asked the person upstairs. And it was based on a true story. And I go, do you know if they ever talked to the people in the building? And both of them tried to kind of emphasize to us the nuance that you can't do that in Brazil. Unless you are implicated in the case, you can't go just randomly questioning someone. You could hurt their reputation. So just remember that in this, you know, in this country, when we have freedom of speech and freedom of press, it's not the same way in other places. You might hurt someone's feelings in other countries, and you know, so just want to, you know, point out the little bit that I know about it too.
Right. I mean, it's the same thing, just to circle back to your point with the whole Meghan Markle Pierce thing, that all she had to do, and she was a U.S. citizen, but all she had to do was make the claim that he was offending her, and he got fired, right? If over here, you're not going to get fired for offending someone. It's kind of the way of the world. It's like, because we have freedom of speech and we're allowed to say these things as long as they're true and not defamatory.
Yeah.
You know,
and even if it's a public figure, you actually are kind of allowed to say things that aren't true. So, and then depending on the extent of damage, you know.
Yeah, you could speculate, hypothesize. You can't make an accusation about a celebrity that's not true, because they most of the time they're not going to care, but when they care, right? Like Oprah, and you know, if someone's going to come back after you, you're probably not going to win if you said something that was untrue in a case here, right? So
yeah, but
if it's the truth, oh well. And here we think if you're a public figure, you're putting yourself out there for these kind of commentary and whatnot.
We love you guys. We appreciate your support. Thank you for showing up, and please leave your comments below. Thank you for joining today, and have a great day.